Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast with Jacob Maggard. I'm here with,
Dalton Phillips.
and today we're obviously doing our pick'ems for the week. Got a really fun slate of games here. It's going to be one of the better weeks of college football. Got a bunch of big time games, and of course, coming off of last week, you'll see what happens because last week was crazy, had all kinds of upsets. So maybe we can see some cool stuff this week. Straight into our Mountain Dew segment here for the week. Dalton's got me on that Major Melon. Get that Major Melon.
It's good, dude. I told you.
Love the
And
Major.
I found one in the fridge, Diet Dew. So we'll rock with that one for today.
Little Diet Dew. Staying with
I'm
the
not much of a diet kind of guy, but I'm trying to go on a little bit of a diet, so I probably should start drinking a little bit more of this.
um, And fun segment we want to do here to start off. We're basically at the midway point of the college football season. So me and Dalton are going to bring you who we believe should win the Heisman. Dalton, if you want to go ahead and start us off with who's your top five? Who's your
Uh, I'm gonna. It's a different one. Some people don't have him in their top five, but I want to go Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he's going absolutely absurd to be a freshman, and he's just a game changer. And that's because he has 453 yards receiving on 23 catches. That's insane. We'll talk about him maybe later. Depends if he shows up a little bit more.
yeah.
But and also five TDs with that guy. That's unheard of as a freshman. And I'd like to see him absolutely show out the rest of the year. And maybe he's in that top five.
Yeah. Jeremiah Smith's a great player.
Yep.
Going into my five spot, I have Dylan Gabriel here. We will talk about him later, but I
Yep.
think Gabriel to me is that high completion percentage guy, just gets the ball out to his weapons, and Gabriel is a little bit dynamic on his feet. He's had a couple rushes here and there this year, explosive plays. But I've liked his story, especially coming from, the
Yep.
serious injuries that he had when he was at UCF. Now he's leading Oregon to it being one of the best teams in the country. So yeah, I really like Dylan Gabriel. Looking at his stats, he has 1,449 yards on the year, 11 touchdowns. Only has the three picks. Like I said, pretty careful with the ball. Also, this is the thing with him. High completion percentage. 77.8%, almost a
That's
78
unheard of.
completion percentage. And of course, as of right now, he's undefeated. And like I said, big game this week. Stemming off of that into my four spot. This is the guy to me that is the most surprising guy, and I think he deserves all the respect in the world. It's Curtis Rourke. Of course, he transferred in from a small college into Indiana, and of course now he's leading Indiana to what it's probably their best college football season they've had in 20 plus years. Looking at his stats, he has 1,752 passing yards. He also has 14 touchdowns and only thrown two picks in 6 games. Very consistent quarterback play. Also, like I said, 6-0 Indiana team. And realistically looking at it, this Indiana team has a chance to go to the point where they're, 8-0, 9-0 playing those big games at the end of the year against Michigan, Ohio State. Dalton, if you want to go ahead and say your four.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with another smaller guy, but after that win against Alabama, I'm gonna go Diego Pavia there. He's had a heck of a year. Not only throwing the ball, he's not that excellent at throwing the ball, but he's doing dang good at it, and he's got around 1,000 yards passing there. But almost a 400 yards rushing as a quarterback already, with having that good of a passing game. That's another insane year, and he's at 10 touchdowns combined together, 8 passing and 2 rushing. I really like how he's commanding the Commodores. They're just complete. This is a completely different football team with him at quarterback. My three is Cam Ward. He's absolutely outstanding. I think he's the best quarterback in football right now. He is. But you have those two other guys that I'm going to mention later that I have. That's the only reason he's not there at one spot. It's two outstanding players ahead of him, but I'm gonna let Maggard discuss them. I feel like he's got Cam Ward there too. Maybe.
Yeah. Ward is my three as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said, best quarterback in college football right now. I don't even think it's close. I think Rourke deserves some respect, and a guy like Gabriel, a couple guys, Milrow and Beck, and a couple other guys in the country that could put their name in there. But right now, Cam Ward has easily been the best quarterback in college football. He has 2,219 yards. That's ridiculous. He has 20 touchdowns. He does have 5 picks. Now, he didn't have 5 picks going into the last 2 games. Tech picked
Yep.
him off twice, and then he made a pretty poor decision against California to throw a pick, but he led them all the way back for a comeback. So that's just the guy you're getting here. Again, has a near 70% completion percentage. He's right at it, like 69.8. And then the dude is averaging 370 yards per game passing. That's ridiculous. And when you got that kind of passing attack, the run game comes easy for them. And they don't even have that great of a run game. It's just good enough because of how good Cam Ward is. Leading into my two spot, me and Dalton will also share this one. Travis Hunter. He has 46 catches on the year, 561 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. That's what he does on offense. He's one of the better receivers in the country, and that's on the offensive side of the ball. He also flips over and plays 60 snaps of defense every game or more. And on that side, he has 16 tackles, not a super important stat for corners. Also has 2 interceptions. One of them was ridiculous if you saw it, a week or two ago. He also has a forced fumble, which he forced on the 1 yard line to win a game in overtime. So Travis Hunter does everything right. He also has 3 pass breakups on the year, but that's people don't target him very often. He only had 5 last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw at that guy.
You're not throwing this way. Don't.
No,
If you have anything you want to add about Travis Hunter,
that he's so elite on both sides of the ball. He's a top 5 player on both sides of the ball, and that's never been done before. And if it wasn't for the number one guy that we both have, I'm pretty sure I think everybody everywhere has this guy number one because of how absurd he's playing.
yeah,
Travis Hunter would 100% be in that one spot.
yeah. At number one, Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah.
This is we were kind of discussing this before we started filming today, trying to figure out what we thought running back wise. What does he compare to? What are some of the guys that have done this? If you look back at Derrick Henry's Heisman year, he was really, really good that year. He only had 500 yards through the first 5 games. Ashton Jeanty has 1,031. He is on pace to do what only a GOAT has done in Barry Sanders.
One other guy, and that is
He's
the best
also
running back in college history.
on pace with the touchdowns. He has 16 through his first 5. Sanders, of course, in that year had 38. Sanders also had, I think it was 2,600 yards. We're looking at a guy in Jeanty who's on pace to do something that hasn't been done since Sanders did that. He's also only played in 16 quarters this year. So that, if you add it up, is 4 of those 5 games. He took a half off twice. If he had the stats in those halves, he'd be
Leave him in.
100 yards right now. It's
Leave him
unbelievable
in.
for 5 games. I mean, he has been unbelievable. His highlight tapes are ridiculous. It's 5 games of highlights, and it's like every other player's full career of highlights. He's unbelievable. Dalton, if you have anything else you want to add about him.
Yeah, we were actually talking about the highlights earlier, like how like kind of like Tavon Austin is with us,
Mhm.
like how like we grew up watching that Tavon. You hear that once, you hear that song, and you're just like,
Yeah,
that's Tavon Austin right there. I mean, Genty, I could see Genty having one of those, like,
yeah, for
because he
sure.
is that good. Because he breaks so many tackles, dude. He's like a bowling ball, but he's insanely fast.
Yeah,
Like he's just like it's ridiculous. He is a specimen of
yeah.
an athlete.
Yeah, low down to the ground, but just runs like a power back on top of being, like you said, unbelievable acceleration, fast get off. The dude's unbelievable. Like I've said before, the best running back I've got to watch, especially since Henry, and I'm a Titans fan, so I'm a Henry fan. This guy's better in college, and Henry was unbelievable. So it's just insane to watch this guy play football.
Yeah, I watched Henry in college, and he's as hard a runner, if not
Yeah,
harder than Henry
and
was.
he's way smaller. Again, that's our Heisman update. I think these guys, to me and to Dalton, especially our top 3, we both think those are the guys that have kind of separated themselves from the pack. Those guys, in my opinion, will lead the way the rest of the year. I think that's it. That's the guys we're watching now. And there's some names, like I said, Milroe can sneak back in there. Beck at Georgia because of who he is. The 2 guys Dalton mentioned, and then of course I mentioned Rourke and Gabriel. It's going to be a fun Heisman battle, but I think we have our 3 real true contenders have kind of stepped themselves up and been there, and Jeanty, Hunter, and Cam Ward. Diving right into our picks here. First game is a Friday night football game. Utah traveling to Arizona State. This Arizona State team is 4-1 and better than people thought they were going to be. And this Utah team has to bounce back after a loss. And who knows if they figure out their quarterback situation. Looking at the stats for Utah, Isaac Wilson, he's been pretty bad, truthfully, when he plays. Cam Rising has been good. And Cam Rising, we know, is one of the better college quarterbacks when he plays. It's just we don't ever know when he's playing. He's listed as likely to play this week, but he was listed as likely to play, 2 weeks ago when we covered him and I picked Utah, and he didn't play. On the other side, ASU, Sam Leavitt, 1,012 yards, 7 touchdowns, only 3 picks. He's been pretty good this year. And as you can tell, his lead receiver in Jordan Tyson, that's the guy he's getting the ball out to. He's really using Tyson, and only 20 catches for 285 yards, truthfully. Could use him a little bit more. And then on the other side for Utah, Wilson, he knows Dorian Singer's his guy. And if Cam Rising comes back, I assume he'll use him as well. Singer's been pretty good this year, 26 catches and 359 yards. Dalton, if you want to talk about the rushing attack for both these teams.
Yeah, the rushing attack over there, Utah is the only way they win the ball game there because with you're not having a good quarterback situation, Micah Bernard is a really good running back, and I'd like to see him get the ball more because he's averaging almost 7 yards a carry. And I'm saying that's insane. Even though he's already got 82 carries in the year, if you can't pass the ball, like he has 7 interceptions there, run the ball. That's how you win ball games. On the other side, Cam Skattebo, he is a stud. He's getting the ball, and I would like to see him keep getting the ball because that's how you win ball games, especially against a good Utah team. And they're going to be trying to run the ball too. So just going to be a great running game there.
Yeah, I think the rushing attack's obviously important for both teams. As you can see, Scatterby has 615 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's been the lead production on their offense. And like you said, same for Utah. With Wilson, they definitely have to run the ball with Bernard, really use him a lot because he's been great this year. And if for some reason, Cam Rising, again, listed as likely to play, which you would think that means he's going to. If he doesn't, obviously they're going to lean on Bernard. Making a pick here. To me, if Cam Rising's playing, I'm taking Utah. But I don't know if Cam Rising's going to play, and they tell me every week he's going to, and he doesn't. I've got burnt picking him before. Right here, I'm going Arizona State at home. I think they take the upset win here, and it's just because Cam Rising's just, we don't know. We have
Yeah.
no idea if he's going to play or not.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arizona State here too because without Cam Rising, I don't see him rising to the occasion here to win the ball game.
Yeah. Next game here, massive game. Of course, the Red River rivalry is big every year. Texas playing Oklahoma, super important. Now both of these teams are SEC schools, so this is going to help them in SEC play, whoever gets the win here. Texas has been the best team in the country, in my opinion, so far, and even through adversity with the quarterback situation, it's just been perfect. Oklahoma on the other side, quarterback situation, once they switch that up, I think they've been much better with Hawkins playing quarterback. Looking at the stats, of course, Arch Manning is the leading passer for Texas this year, but we got news that they expect Ewers to play. I think that is important in this game because Oklahoma is a true test, and that really wouldn't be what you want Arch facing in his freshman year. On the other side, Michael Hawkins, he is a freshman. He will be starting. It's the first freshman to start for Oklahoma in this rivalry in 120 years. Never had a freshman quarterback start at Oklahoma in this game. They're going to have one here. The coach said he has a lot of faith in Hawkins. He believes that he's the guy and he can get it done here. Looking at the rushing attack, Dalton, this is important for both teams to get it going if they do for sure
Very.
to play the young quarterbacks.
Yeah, very. Especially with 2 freshman quarterbacks. If Mr. Ewers doesn't play, um, Jadon Blue, he's a very good running back, but their passing attack is so good. He doesn't get the love that he needs, and I think if it is a young quarterback matchup, it's going to come down to the running game. And on the other side, Javante Barnes, he just isn't having a great year. I mean, he's been having a okay year. He didn't play good against Tennessee.
Mm-mm.
I watched him play against Tennessee, and he just didn't run the ball very well. Obviously, Tennessee's defensive line is crazy, but I just haven't seen a really spark from this year. If he does, I mean, this would be the game to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. If he can step up and play here, that'd be super important for them. And like you said, Hawkins, being the young guy coming into play, he's going to need that running attack a little bit against Texas, who has one of the better defenses in the country. Looking at the receiving, Texas, of course, has stud in Isaiah Bond. Been really good this year. Manning was using him well. Ewers was using him well. They also have Ryan Lingo, who has been awesome, come on the scene and been great since day one. On the other side, for OU, Burks has been awesome. And you can see 26 for 201 and 3 touchdowns. He needs the ball more, truthfully. Use that guy. He's an elite weapon on the outside. Making a pick here. To me, like I said, I think Texas is the best team in the country. I think Texas gets it done here, and especially if Ewers is playing, I really trust Texas.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Texas also. I just don't think this Oklahoma team's just capable of beating that caliber of team yet. Because I mean, Texas is just up there. That's the best team in the country, and there's no doubt there.
Next game here. This is a big one. Penn State traveling to play USC. USC, of course, coming off the loss to Minnesota and an upset that really nobody expected. Penn State, they have looked great this year. They're ranked inside the top 5. And there's always that thing about Penn State's offense and how they just don't really have a passing attack. And they run the ball pretty well usually with the good offensive line and always have strong defenses. This year, looking at the stats, Drew Aller has been the guy they needed. He's finally playing up to that, top tier quarterback level. He's playing really, really well this year. He has 1,101 yards, 9 touchdowns, only the 1 interception through 5 games. He's not turned the ball over, and that's massive. You have to just play slow. You have a great running back, and just use him. On the other side, passing for USC, Miller Moss. We talked about how he had been really, really good coming up to that game against Minnesota. That was his first he made a lot of mistakes. He didn't play well in that game. He had 2 interceptions. They can't have that out of him at all if they want to beat Penn State. He has almost 1,400 yards on the year, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, 2 of those coming last week. Looking at the rushing attack, Dalton, that's going to be important here, and both backs are good.
Very. Penn State has one of the best running backs in the country, in my opinion. Nick Singleton is a absolute stud. They need to get the ball to him more, in my opinion. 53 carries isn't that good. I mean, he should be up there with 80 like Woody Marks. Woody Marks is good too. They're both good backs, but Nick Singleton is just a little bit better, and I like to see him touch the ball more.
Yeah, I think Singleton's definitely more of that NFL ready prospect that we kind of expected out of him this year. But I agree with you. Singleton could get the ball more, but I think a lot of that has come from their passing attack being much better than expected. Singleton just hasn't had to have the ball as much. And in this game, I think he will get it. Receiving wise, Penn State, their lead receivers, their tight end, Tyler Warren, really, really good option for Aller to go to. Makes a lot of big time plays. He's just a big dude and does everything well. He also can stay on the field and help you in the running game. On the other side, as you can see, for USC, Lane, 21 for 234 yards, 4 touchdowns. Moss has that connection with him. And then they have some other talented guys like Zachariah Branch, who we just haven't seen, be as good as we expected him to be this year. Maybe Branch can break out in this game, and that would be the perfect game to do it. USC getting this game at home makes this one a little bit more competitive, in my opinion. If they were playing at Penn State, I think it would be a no-brainer. I still am going to go Penn State. I think Penn State wins here, and this is one of the better Penn State teams that I've seen over the last 5, 10 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Penn State here. Penn State's a good football team. Even traveling here to South California, it's going to be Penn State in my opinion because USC just hasn't showed it for me this year.
Next game here, we got Arizona traveling to BYU. This is a big game. Of course, Arizona coming off the tough loss, and then BYU looking to continue an undefeated season where I don't think anybody would have thought they'd be the number 14 team in the country right now. Looking at stats, Noah Fafita, 1,361 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He had 2 of those last week, and truthfully, that's what lost him the game. On the other side, Jake Retzlaff, he's been great this year. 1,208 yards, 12 touchdowns. The 5 picks, we'd like to see him tone that back. Of course, that's 1 per game. But again, he's a playmaker trying to make plays. As you can see, he's also their leading rusher on the year. Jake Retzlaff has 34 carries, 156 yards, and a touchdown. But truly, the story behind the running back situation is all the injuries that they've had to lead guys. LJ Martin, he was their lead guy through the first week. He faces an injury. So then they're like, okay, we got to go to the next back. Then they have Enoch Nawahine. He steps in as the running back. He plays well in his game. Guess what? He gets hurt. So then they go to Siane Moa. He gets hurt. It's a revolving door of injuries. They've had no luck with keeping guys healthy. Finally, they get to their last running back in Hinckley Ropati, and he plays well in the games he's played. But it's just a very split backfield. If you go look at all their stats, truthfully, if one of them had played all the games, they probably wouldn't have a terrible backfield of running backs. But this can be good for later in the year with experience from a lot of backs. And maybe we see the 3-back, 4-back system keep up. I have no idea how they'll play it, but we expect Martin to come back this week. Dalton, if you want to talk about Arizona's rushing attack.
Yeah, they have another one of the best running backs in the country. Quali Conley is a stud, and him running the ball for 419 yards and 5 touchdowns, that just keeps adding on to that offense. And I'd like to see him keep getting the ball.
In their passing game, Tetairoa McMillan, he's special. We've talked about him so many times this year. It feels like Arizona's been on here a lot. But McMillan is a constant thing of being, a stud. 37 catches, 664 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, best receiver in the country, in my opinion. On the other side, for BYU, Chase Roberts, 21 catches for 336 yards and 2 touchdowns. Going to make a pick here. BYU gets the home game, which is very important, especially when you're a 5-0 football team. The crowd's going to be there. You're going to have fans. They're going to show up. I think BYU wins this one, and I actually think they end up winning it big. I don't think Fafita he just hasn't showed me anything special this year, and it was a guy we expected to be really good. He's just made mistake after mistake after mistake, and I think they keep piling up here. BYU takes this one.
I'm going to go BYU also. Arizona just hasn't offenses. They've started figuring things out, but I just don't think they're there yet. And BYU has showed me that their offense is good.
Next game here, Ole Miss traveling to LSU. Not an easy place to play, and Ole Miss is coming off a pretty big win, 27-3. Really easy game for them last week, and they really needed that after the loss to Kentucky. LSU has looked great this year. Looking at the stats, Garrett Nussmeier, that's the reason why. I think Nussmeier has been much better than people thought he was going to be, and they hyped him up in the offseason like he was going to be pretty good, and I like what I'm seeing out of the guy. 1,652 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and they really got their pass game going because of him. On the other side, Jackson Dart, we all expected him to be a stud this year. He's been great. At 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. He's just very careful with the ball. He's a great quarterback, makes really good decisions. And, of course, that's why he got his team in the top 10 right now. Dalton, if you want to talk about the running attack for both teams.
Henry Paris, he's a stud. He gets the ball a lot, and he runs the ball hard. Like he gets his yards with his carries. On the other side, Caden Durham, he took the role as a starter as a freshman because of their true starter getting hurt in the first game, and he's played good. He doesn't have to when you have Nussmeier absolutely slinging the rock, and I mean he does what he needs to do. I mean he's averaging almost 10 yards a carry, which is insane as a freshman. That's absurd. And I mean, I would like to see him get the ball a little bit more. Let him see what he can do. Even if your pass game, I mean, control the clock a little bit more.
Yeah, he's been one of the better true freshman players in the country. I mean, 29 carries for 244 yards and 3 touchdowns is great from a guy who you didn't expect to be making this big of a contribution for your team. Looking at receiving stats, Trey Harris, leading receiver in the entire country, almost at 1,000 yards. He's closing in on it. Maybe this is the game he reaches it. 885 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, obviously, dude's a stud. On the other side, for LSU, Anderson with 27 catches, 371 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't know if they even expected him to be this good. He's been really good. Nussmeier's using him well. Looking to make a pick here. Ole Miss is, they have aspirations to make a playoff this year. This is their season. If they're going to do it, it's going to be now. Same for LSU. They didn't make it last year with one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in college football over the last 5 years. And they are also expecting to make a playoff. They have built a team around Nussmeier that's really, really good. And like we said, they've fought through adversity already with injuries on both sides of the ball. Making a pick here. It's not easy. I mean, LSU is a tough place to play. I like Ole Miss. I think before the year started, I liked him as one of those teams that I thought would make the playoff. In this one, I think LSU takes it. I think home field advantage is what gets them the win here. And I like LSU as the season goes on because they're really good at doing what they have to do to win football games. And they figure things out, and I think LSU takes this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go LSU too. Death Valley is everybody thinks that it's one of the toughest places to play in the country. Everybody thinks that. And I'm not gonna lie, it might be the hardest place to play in the country, and it's gonna show here. I don't think Jackson Dart can uh, uphold himself here to win the ball game. So I'm gonna go LSU.
Next game we got here, game of the week, easily. I mean, this is up there with Georgia Alabama as one of the most important games of the season when it comes to who's going to win what in what conferences. Ohio State traveling to Oregon to play the Ducks. Looking at stats, Will Howard, 1,248 yards in the year, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. On the other side, Dylan Gabriel, a Heisman candidate in my opinion, has 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Been really, really good this year. The rushing attack, Dalton, is going to play a big role in this one if you want to talk about it.
Ohio State has maybe the best rushing attack I've ever seen ever, with two backs, and that being Henderson and Judkins. Both of them are absolutely crazy. And I mean, when you have two elite running backs, and they're both probably top 10 running backs in college football, in my opinion, and having both of them on one team is absurd. And on the other side, Jordan James, he's playing a pretty good role there at Oregon because they pass the ball a lot, but when he runs the ball, he gets his yards like he needs to. He has 88 carries for 552 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's a great stat line there at Oregon because they pass the ball so much. And I like to see him get the ball maybe just a little bit more, even though he does already have 88 carries, because you control a clock like this against this Ohio State team, who knows what happens.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the running game obviously important in this one. Like I said, Travion and Quinshon, both very important for what Ohio State does as a rushing attack. They have two guys that are going to go to the NFL and premier backs, truthfully, in college football. Receiving game, super important for both teams. These are two teams that have elite receivers. Both sides have 2 to 3 guys that will be NFL players in the future. For Ohio State, to talk about their two guys, you have Jeremiah Smith in your Heisman contention. Right here he is.
Yep,
23
he is.
catches for 453 yards on only 23 catches is super impressive. They also have Emeka Egbuka, a guy that is going to be, at least a first, second, third round guy in next year's draft. Superstar player. They're going to get him the ball a lot too. On the other side, for Oregon, they have Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Trayshawn Holden, Terrence Ferguson. The list goes on and on and on of just threats that Gabriel can get the ball out to. Of course, you can see Tez Johnson's been the lead receiver on the year. Gabriel's definite main target with 43 catches for 395 yards and 5 touchdowns. Going to make a pick here, Dalton. I'll let you lead us.
I really like Oregon, but I'm gonna go Ohio State here. There's so many athletes across the board on both sides here. Ohio State just has, I mean, four, five, six, maybe seven elite athletes on that one team. That is insane from a single team. And their rushing attack is so good, and I love watching the ball get ran. I'm going to go Ohio State here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Ohio State rushing attack is just better than Oregon's. I think when you got two guys that can get you 100 yards in a game, it's unbelievable. And on top of that, they have one of the best freshman receivers we've seen in a long, long time, as well as a guy that's going to go in the first or second round of a draft. I think Ohio State is loaded with talent. I think they take this one. Next game here, two teams coming off massive upsets. Of course, Kentucky had the bye week to prepare for Vanderbilt, but they both just won big time games in the SEC. Kentucky, of course, upset Ole Miss. Vanderbilt upset of the century in the SEC when they upset Alabama. They're playing for a lot right now. I mean, you're going to get respect from the conference first of all because of those two wins, but you're also playing for Vanderbilt with only the one loss in the conference. Who knows what they can do? If they can beat Alabama, they can really beat anybody. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the top five teams in the country. Looking at the stats for Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia is why Vanderbilt's here. He has 973 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, hasn't turned the ball over passing the ball. He's protecting the football. That's what you have to do if you want to beat teams that are better than you. Play smart and protect the football. He does that perfectly. You can also see Pavia has 91 carries for 335 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's an elite rushing quarterback. We've talked about it many times. I don't know the numbers on it, but I would assume he's got to be near the top of the list for guys that have designed QB run plays for them. He is their rushing attack, and they obviously have good backs with him. On the other side, for Kentucky, Brock Vandagriff, former Georgia player, he played great, in last week's game against Ole Miss. They needed him to play really well because he struggled early on in the year. 793 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like I said, the stats really aren't there because he struggled early on. It really, really didn't look good against South Carolina. He's figured some things out, and maybe the rushing attack here is what will decide it because we have an elite rushing team in Vanderbilt and a Kentucky team that has a really good back. Don, if you want to talk about
Yeah.
those two teams' rushing attacks.
Yeah, both teams have pretty good rushing attacks, but I mean Vanderbilt's is obviously Pavia is a stud. I included him in my Heisman watch, but they have two running backs, Cedric Alexander with 72 carries, which is a lot, seeing that your quarterback's getting 91 carries,
Mhm.
and AJ Newberry, he gets some carries too. On the other side, you have running back Demi Sumo Karngbe. He's a pretty good running back, and you have to at Kentucky because they've been struggling passing the ball, and I would like to see him to give the guy the ball a little bit more because he's doing pretty good with the ball, and you need to because your quarterback's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, Vandegrift is not, he's not looked like a superstar this year. And Bay's been the guy. He's been a beast. You got to get him the ball, like you said, a little bit more. And in this game against Vanderbilt, who's going to also control the clock and run the ball well, you got to hope yours is doing the same. Looking at the receiving game, Vanderbilt has Eli Stowers at tight end, who's been awesome. I don't know if they really expected this kind of production out of their tight end. They also have Quincy Skinner, who's been great at receiver and made some big plays this year. On the other side, for Kentucky, they have an elite athlete in Barryon Brown, but they have Dane Key, 23 catches for 369 yards and a touchdown. He's been elite this year. When you have him and you have Barryon, I'd like to see Brock get them the ball more and start really working the passing game. They have done well in the last couple weeks, and that's led to some wins for them. Making a pick here. Kentucky has the home game, which is important in any SEC environment. But I'm taking Vanderbilt. I'm going to ride the high that Vanderbilt is really that good. I've seen what they can do in the running attack, and it's disgusting. They run the ball better than a lot of teams. And Pavia, like you said, Cedric Alexander, they run the ball so well that's going to win this game, in my opinion. They're going to take this one.
Yeah, I'm also going to go Vanderbilt, not to be a copycat here again. Uh, I don't like either one of these teams being a Tennessee fan, especially Kentucky. I mean, Vanderbilt, I mean, they're in-state rivals, but I mean, we hate Kentucky. I can't stand Kentucky. And I'm going to go Vanderbilt because I really believe in Pavia that much. I love that guy. He just has a heart. I mean, I love that. Being that guy like how he is, I honestly root for Vanderbilt. I hate seeing myself root for Vanderbilt, but I do.
Next game here, Iowa State traveling to West Virginia. This is a West Virginia team that had a lot of hype around them coming into the season, and they started out really slow, but they have heated up. They've looked really good the last 2 weeks. A lot of that comes down to the stats here from Garrett Green, playing much, much better than he was to start the year. Has 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, the 4 picks. Again, limit the turnovers, and it's much better. Also, Garrett Green's a dynamic runner that helps them a ton on offense. On the other side, Rocco Becht playing great for this season. I mean, we didn't expect him to be a stud. He's been really good. 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. Also helps them out a ton on offense because they're much more dynamic than what we thought they were going to be. Dalton, if you want to talk about the rushing attack for both teams.
Yeah, Jalen Jackson is their lead back, but they spread the ball out quite a bit with Abu Soma and Carson Hansen. They all also take carries in the backfield. On the other side, for West Virginia, there's two lead backs, and that being C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White. Both have over 350 yards, and that's excellent having two running backs over 350 yards. And I like this West Virginia team because of that.
The rushing attack is dynamic because, like I said before, they have a quarterback that can run really well. They have two backs over 350 yards. They spread the ball around. You could kind of compare that something to like the Ohio State team that runs two really impressive backs. These backs at West Virginia are really good. Donaldson and White have played really well this year. Looking at receivers for Iowa State, Jalen Noel. We've talked about him already this year. 24 catches for 451 yards, two touchdowns. That's definitely Beck's favorite target to go to. For West Virginia, Hudson Clement. He's been really good for Garrett Green, and that's on not a lot of receptions, only 17 catches on the year. I think with the offense speeding up, getting better, he'll get the ball more. Making a pick here. West Virginia has been much better. Don't let that 3-2 record fool you. They're 2-0 in the conference. They've looked like that team that people thought could compete before the year started. And I'm taking West Virginia here. They have a crazy crowd. I think West Virginia is going to win this one at home.
You read my mind again, man. I like West Virginia at home because they're such a hard place to play. They're in Morgantown. It is ridiculous, and their fans are crazy. I don't see them able to handle that West Virginia crowd. I'm gonna go West Virginia too.
Next game here. This is a big one. Colorado trying to prove that, they're something. They're legit this year. Playing a Kansas State team coming off a win last week where they dominated. They also are ranked 18th in the country. This would be a massive win for Deion and the boys. Looking at the stats, Avery Johnson, he's gotten better as a passer as the years went on, and they've helped him out with that. They've started creating pass plays for him where he don't have to do a whole lot of reading. He just kind of snaps the ball, throws it quick, easy, short routes, stuff over the middle. It's really not hard for him to make those reads. As you can see, 879 yards, 9 touchdowns now. That's much better than he started the year out with. And the 4 interceptions, he's still going to make mistakes. He's just not the greatest quarterback when it comes to passing. On the other side, Shedeur Sanders, we're talking about a guy that's up there in the upper echelon of quarterbacks in college football with 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Dalton, if you want to talk about the rushing attack, it's important for both teams.
Kansas State's rushing attack is very good because DJ Giddens is very good. And look at your quarterback. Avery Johnson is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the college football. And on the other side, it's scary because Colorado cannot run the ball at all. Isaiah Augusta, he's not that bad, guys. As bad as he looks, his stats look bad. I know that, but he has a terrible offensive line. Like it is scarily bad. And I mean, he has 24 carries for 117 yards. That's okay. I mean, not for the season. That's like some people's game stats, most people's game stats. And you can't win ball games doing that, even though this Colorado team is good. I like this Colorado team.
Yeah, their rushing attack is nothing. It's non-existent. They did have Dallin Edwards have a good game, and then Augusta, like you said, he's struggling. It's just not much rushing in general for them. Looking at the receiving core for both teams, we've talked about Jace Brown. KSU uses him a lot. Avery Johnson has kind of found out that this guy's legit. I got to get him the ball when I can, and they run a lot of those routes, those short routes, those easy concepts to him. Let him make plays. On the other side, Colorado. We talked about him. He's a Heisman contender because of how good he is on both sides of the ball. But look at his receiving yards. 561 receiving yards on the year, 46 receptions. Shedeur gets him the ball constantly, all the time. The ball's out to him. Also, they have Jimmy Horn. He's been great this year. He had a really, really good game earlier in the year, and Shedeur knows how to get him the ball too on those deeper concepts because he's a smaller guy, quick receiver. Colorado's offense is very dynamic, but it's not dynamic in the run game at all. It's just
No,
super
not at
dynamic
all.
in the passing game. I mean, they get the ball out to all the receivers and then just hope they don't have to run the ball. Because if they have to run the ball, it's not pretty at all. To make a pick here, Colorado hosts a big-time game. This is huge for them. If they want to be serious, legit competitors, this is it. You got to win this one. I don't think they do. I think Kansas State takes this one. I think their rushing attack is really good, and Colorado's kind of had a suspect defense against certain teams this year. Although they played good against UCF, I don't expect it in this one. I think Kansas State takes this one.
Yeah, I like Kansas State's rushing attack, but I'm actually going to go against my own judgment and say Colorado because I feel like Travis Hunter is that good of a athlete. He is the greatest athlete I've ever watched, like on both sides of the ball. He is insane, and I love watching him. I love the little sellies does after the touchdowns. I love that, and I think he keeps doing it. And I could let's see 3 touchdowns this game, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, 3 of them, and you got to hope one of those comes on
Yep.
defense. Hunter is a beast, and if they do somehow win this game, it will be Hunter making plays for them to win it, and of course Shedeur, who's a top tier quarterback. Next game here, Tennessee has to bounce back. You got Neyland to help you out in the bounce back game,
Yep.
but you're playing an opponent that has beat you a lot in the last 25 years. I mean, Florida pretty much has Tennessee's number, but a lot of the time, Tennessee, if they do get it done, it is at home. They are
Yep.
the much better football team here. Florida is truly not very good at all. I think Napier is really on the hot seat, and this is one of those games that maybe if he wins it, he gets it off the hot seat. Looking at the stats, we don't really know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation for Florida. Heupel said that they're preparing for Lagway and Mertz. Graham Mertz, the other quarterback on the team, of course, not shown in the stats there. But Mertz, he's the veteran. He's done this. And Lagway's the young guy, the playmaker, the what they hope to be a stud in the future. On the other side for Tennessee, Nico's been great this year. 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's just he was a little rattled in that big game last week, and I think he settles back down at a home game where the crowd knows, let's be quiet and let him settle in. Let's let him
Yep.
play. Dalton, if you want to talk about the rushing attack for both of these teams.
Yeah, at Tennessee, I love Tennessee. Dylan Sampson, the second best running back in the SEC. We faced the first one last week, and he was scary. I no, we're not going to talk about last week. We're moving on to this week. And for the other side, Montrell Johnson, he's not going to do good against this Tennessee defensive line. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That might just be me being a cocky Tennessee fan, but he's not going to do good. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And you know how I feel about my Vols.
Yeah, the rushing attack is obviously important. If Florida wants to have any chance in this game, they have to establish a run game of some sort. And Johnson's not done a bad job this year with 58 carries, 288 yards, and 4 touchdowns, but it's nothing like the elite rushing attack that Tennessee has. I mean, Sampson is, we know he's one of the best backs. And they also have Bishop coming off their bench.
Yep.
And, he can take carries and spouts for Sampson and get him out of the game, give him a break. And he's also great when he's in there. Looking at the receiving game, this is one of those things that could really matter coming into this one. Tennessee is injured. Thornton goes down, Brew McCoy, and then Squirrel White. But I think he's okay. I don't know really what the designation is on injury for him. They need those guys. Nico needs his guys that he's played with. He's already a freshman. He can't help to lose the guys he's been targeting all year. And maybe we'll see that they're all healthy and they're all good. And this is it. They walk in here, they have an easy time, and they win. But it's just important to watch the injuries there. On the other side, for Florida, Badgers, they're down 17 catches, 346 yards, 2 touchdowns. 350 yards almost on 17 catches is phenomenal. Just start getting that guy the ball more and more and more, and see if you can test Tennessee's secondary, which truly hasn't been tested a ton over the last couple of weeks because they've been so good at defensively getting to the quarterback and stopping the run game. To make a pick here, Tennessee has a home game, and it's a bounce back game. I think they blow the doors off Florida. I really do. I think Tennessee's offense is finally going to figure something out here, and I think Nico kind of realized, I'm in the SEC. This is no joke. I've got to lock in, figure things out, and come back next week prepared. I don't think they let one game beat them twice. I think they kill Florida. I really do. I think Florida gets beat bad here. Dalton, go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you know where I'm going here, Tennessee. But I'm very thankful it's not in the swamp because we haven't won the swamp in, I think it's 22 years. That is insane. And Neyland is the second hardest play to play in college football, and I stand by that 100%. Besides Death Valley, and I mentioned them earlier. And I just feel bad for this Florida team coming into Neyland because Nico's going to show out this game because he has to. To be considered a top quarterback in the SEC, you have to play good in this game. And I want to play good in this game because guess what we get next week? You'll hear about that one next week. I promise.
Yeah, this is, of course, that build-up
Yeah.
game to the massive game. And
Yeah.
same thing as don't let last week beat you this
Yep.
week. Don't let looking forward beat you this week.
No.
This is, again, a team you've struggled with over
Yep.
the last 25 years. But again, Tennessee is really good this year, and this Florida team is the opposite. I think
Yep.
Tennessee, they handle this one. Thank you guys so much for joining this week. We had a fun week of pick'ems, and if you enjoyed the Heisman segment at the beginning, we'll probably carry that on the rest of the way. If we have changes to our list and guys that step up and surprise us even, we'll add them on there and talk about them in the coming weeks. I think this is going to be a super fun week of games. I said it before. I think this is one of our better weeks of pick'ems. We have a huge game in the Red River rivalry, and then of course we have Tennessee trying to bounce back, and we also have a 2 versus 3 matchup that's super important. Dalton, do you have anything you want to add?
This is a big week of college football, especially for my Vols. We'll see the rebound here. And just go Vols. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, again, thank you guys so much. Again, like and subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing here, trying to get the content out to more and more people and hopefully keep growing the channel. It's been super fun so far. I really enjoy it. And join us again next week when we review these games. Peace, everybody.
Peace.